Ibtissam, 22, a mother of two hoping to reunite with her husband in Germany, pictured at the Souda refugee camp on Chios Island, Greece, June 10, 2017. Reuters. Athens, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras should end the Greek government's containment policy of confining asylum seekers to the Aegean Islands, 19 human rights and humanitarian aid organizations said in an open letter released today. Thousands of people, including very young children, single or pregnant women, and people with physical disabilities, are trapped in abysmal conditions as winter sets in. Forcing asylum seekers to remain in conditions that violate their rights and are harmful to their well-being, health, and dignity cannot be justified by the implementation of the Turkey deal, the organization said. Since the implementation of the Turkey statement in March 2016, the Greek islands of Lesbos, Chios, Samos, Kos, and Leros have become places of indefinite confinement. Thousands of women, men, and children are trapped in deplorable and volatile conditions, with many denied access to adequate asylum procedures. Asylum seekers who arrived on the islands in the first days of the implementation of the Turkey deal have been stuck there for almost 19 months. The recent increase in arrivals of men, women, and children has increased the pressure on the already overcrowded reception and identification centers known as hotspots. Current arrivals are still comparatively quite low and should be manageable for Greece and the EU more broadly, but they include a significant number of women and children. The situation is particularly critical on Samos and Lesbos, where a total of more than 8,300 asylum seekers and migrants are living in hotspot facilities meant for just 3,000. The recent announcement that 2,000 asylum seekers will be moved from the two islands to the mainland in the coming weeks as an emergency decongestion measure is a positive development, the group said. But it is not sufficient to alleviate the current overcrowding of the facilities and does not sustainably address the systemic issues that have created this emergency situation, namely the containment policy. With the approach of the third winter since large-scale arrivals on the islands began, it is evident that the Greek authorities cannot meet the basic needs and protect the rights of asylum seekers while they remain on the islands. Implementation of the Turkey statement has been cited by EU and Greek officials as a justification for the containment policy. But forcing asylum seekers to remain in conditions that violate their rights and are harmful to their well-being, health, and dignity cannot be justified, the organization said. The organizations urged Prime Minister Tsipras to protect the human rights of asylum seekers trapped on the islands by ending the containment policy. They should be transferred to the mainland so that they can be provided with adequate accommodation and services to meet their needs and to ensure that their asylum claims are fairly heard. Quotes from participating groups. Greece should end its cruel policy of trapping asylum seekers on the islands, said Eva Kose, Greece researcher at Human Rights Watch. People should not be forced to suffer another winter in unheated tents and without proper services. The policy of containment is putting the lives of people who are seeking sanctuary in Europe at risk, said Jana Frey, the International Rescue Committee's country director. While we welcome the government's announcement to move 2,000 people on Lesbos and Samos off the islands in the coming days as an emergency measure, this can only be seen as a first step. Far more must be done to both improve conditions on the islands and move the most vulnerable to the mainland, in order to ensure that lives are not lost this winter. Refugee tents next to the Moria hotspot on Lesbos Island, where thousands of people, including very young children, pregnant women, and people with physical disabilities, are trapped in abysmal conditions as winter sets in. Emina Sarimovic for Human Rights Watch. September 2017. The Turkey deal must no longer be used as pretext to strand asylum seekers in inhuman conditions on the Greek islands, said Irem Arf, Amnesty International's researcher on migration. It is imperative that the Greek government urgently move people to mainland Greece. The policy of implementing the Turkey statement has been violating asylum seekers' rights under international law, and has contributed in disrupting social cohesion in the Greek islands affected, said Spyros Rizakos, director of ADIMA. It is high time the EU and Greek authorities abandoned this policy. Europe is refusing to offer humane reception conditions and dignity to people in need who arrive on our shores, said Nicola Bay, head of mission for Oxfam in Greece. Greek and EU authorities should immediately transfer migrants to the Greek mainland instead of leaving them trapped in abysmal conditions on the Greek islands. Making these Greek islands a huge detention center isn't in the interests of anyone, said John Maria Pintos, country director of the Norwegian Refugee Council. We all know what it is needed, including the government, to provide vulnerable people trapped on the islands with dignified accommodation and adequate services, without overlooking legal aid.